The average Australian kitchen today is drowning. Counter-covered drawers jam-packed. Pantry stuffed with things nobody remembers buying. We've got triple the cupboards, quadruple the appliances, and somehow our kitchens look worse than ever. Meanwhile, your great-nan's kitchen from 1958 was tiny, basic, practically empty-looking, yet it stayed spotless. Why? Because she wasn't relying on storage solutions or fancy organizers. She had a system. 15 simple habits that prevented clutter from ever taking hold. Those habits worked then. They'll work now. And once you know what they are, you'll wonder why we ever forgot them. Habit 15, the no room for maybe rule back then. Kitchen space wasn't just limited, it was sacred. Your mom knew exactly how much her kitchen could hold, and she never pretended it could hold more. When a new saucepan came home, an old one left. When she bought new tea towels, the fraying ones got cut up for cleaning rags or donated to the local church fete. There was no collection. No, maybe I'll use this someday, pile sitting in the back of the cupboard gathering dust. Here's what's interesting. Modern Australian kitchens are 3 times bigger than those 1958 kitchens. We've got wall-to-wall cupboards, pull-out pantry shelves, and storage under everything. Yet somehow, our kitchens look messier. Why? Because bigger space gives us permission to keep everything. That extra shelf becomes the home for the meat mincer your auntie gave you in 1995, or the fancy cake decorator you used once for your daughter's birthday. Your mom never had room for just in case, so her kitchen stayed ready for what was actually happening right now. This habit teaches us something important. It's not about how much space you have, it's about respecting the space you've got. Habit 14, wash up before you sit down. Think about when you last saw a sink full of dirty dishes just sitting there. For 1950s Australian families, that was unthinkable. There were no dishwashers in most Australian homes back then. Not until the 1970s did they really catch on. That meant every plate, every pot, every cup got washed by hand, dried by hand, and put away by hand. 3 times a day. The routine was simple but strict. Dinner finished. Mum cleared the plates. Before anyone even sat down for a cuppa, the hot water was already running. Wash, rinse, dry, put away. The whole thing took about 15 minutes, start to finish. By the time everyone was relaxing, the sink was empty and clean. Here's the thing though. A clean sink did more than just look nice. When your sink is clean and empty, your whole bench stays clear. Because when the sink's full, everything else piles up around it. Cutting boards lean against the wall. Pots end up on chairs, the dish soap drifts across the bench. Then the sponge migrates. Soon half your kitchen's covered in stuff that should be in the sink. Your mom understood this without thinking about it. The sink wasn't just about dishes. It was the anchor that kept the whole kitchen from falling apart. Habit 13, the 7 p.m. kitchen, reset every evening. After the dishes were dried and the leftovers were tucked away, Australian kitchens got one final tidy. The benches got wiped down with a damp cloth. The stove got a quick wipe. Any crumbs got swept up. The dish towel got rinsed out and hung over the oven handle to dry. Everything went back to square one. The kitchen that greeted your mum in the morning was exactly the same as when she'd said goodnight the evening before. Empty, clean, ready. The coffee pot could come straight out because nothing else was fighting for space. No sticky patches from yesterday's spill. No pile of mail. No clutter from last night's dinner. This wasn't about being fussy. This was psychology, plain and simple. Walking into a clean kitchen at 6 a.m. felt like the day was already under control. Walking into a kitchen full of last night's mess felt like starting in a hole. Your mum knew this in her bones. The kitchen set the mood for the whole house, so she made sure that mood was calm and fresh. The funny part, this nightly reset took about 5 minutes and wasn't even considered a chore. It was just like locking the back door. You did it without thinking. Habit 12, the bench, was a workspace, not a shop display. Walk into a Modern Home magazine and you'll see beautiful kitchens with a mixer permanently sitting on the bench, a fancy olive oil bottle, a fruit bowl, a coffee machine, and a toaster. It looks gorgeous in the photos. In real life, you've got about 30 centimeters of actual bench to cook on. In 1958 Australian kitchens, the bench was treated like gold. If you weren't using something right now, it didn't live there. The toaster lived in a cupboard and came out when you wanted toast. The mixer came out on baking day. The coffee percolator was the only thing that might stay out, and that was because it got used twice every single day. Everything else, away. This meant the bench was always a workspace. Room for chopping, for rolling dough, for putting plates down while you cooked. And here's the clever bit. When your bench is actually clear, wiping it down takes 30 seconds instead of 15 minutes spent moving stuff around. If you did just this one thing tomorrow morning, you'd probably clear 60% of your kitchen clutter by afternoon. No fancy storage system, no new organizer, just open the cupboards and put things inside them. Habit 11, a small set of tools that did everything open a typical kitchen drawer today, and you'll find spatulas in 5 different sizes. 3 types of tongs, a garlic press, a vegetable peeler, a grater, 2 whisks, and about 20 other things you maybe used once. Most of them are tangled up with each other, and half of them are damaged. Your grandmother's kitchen probably had 12 tools, 2 or 3 good knives, a couple of wooden spoons, 1 big cast iron frying pan, 1 medium saucepan, a stock pot, and a baking sheet. That was basically it, and she cooked every single meal from scratch. Here's why this worked. A good chef's knife does what a garlic press does, what a mandolin does, what a fancy vegetable peeler does. It all fits in one drawer slot. A cast iron frying pan can fry, bake, sear, and go straight from stovetop into the oven. When each tool does 5 jobs, you only need 1/5 of the tools. Fewer tools meant less washing, less storing, less to dig through when you needed something fast. The kitchen stayed lean because the equipment stayed lean. Habit 10, a written list. Never improvised. Saturday morning, your mom would sit at the kitchen table with a cup of tea and write down exactly what she needed for the week. Not a vague list, an actual list. Flour, 2 kilograms. Butter, 1 block. Eggs, a dozen. She looked at what was planned for the week's meals and wrote down what she needed for exactly those meals. She brought that list to the shop and bought what was on it. Nothing else. There were no huge supermarkets with special displays trying to trick her. There was no warehouse club where you could fill a trolley with things you didn't need just because they were cheap per unit. The weekly budget was fixed and tight, with no room for surprises. The result was a pantry that only held what the family actually ate. Every tin had a purpose. Every box of pasta had a meal attached to it. There were no impulse buys sitting in the back that never got used. This habit kept shelves from overflowing. It also made cooking easier because your mom always knew what ingredients she had available. Habit 9. Everything in glass jars open a modern pantry, and it's chaos. Cereal boxes in random shapes, chip packets puffed with air, rice in plastic pouches, pasta in tall boxes. Nothing stacks because nothing was designed to stack with anything else. Your grandmother's pantry looked different. Flour went into a labeled tin canister, sugar in another one beside it, rice and beans in glass jars with screw-top lids. Cereals got poured into square containers that lined up like books on a shelf. Everything was the same shape, the same height, with her handwriting or a bit of masking tape for labels. This did 2 things. First, it looked neater. Second, and more important, it actually held more food. Matching containers don't have dead spaces and gaps like regular packaging does. A shelf of glass jars holds significantly more than the same shelf packed with random boxes and bags. Plus, your mom could see exactly how much she had of everything. So she wasn't buying a second bag of flour because the first one was buried somewhere. Habit 8. 1 junk drawer, not 5. Every Australian home had a junk drawer. But here's the key. There was only one, and there was an unspoken rule. If you couldn't close the drawer easily, something had to leave before anything new went in. That was it. Everything else in the kitchen had a specific permanent spot. Scissors lived in drawer 2. The tin opener hung on a hook inside the cabinet door. Matches sat in a tin above the stove. Measuring cups nested together on the second shelf, always in the same place. You didn't have to search for anything because nothing moved around. Items didn't float from surface to surface looking for a home. Everything already had one. They've got 5 junk drawers, or 7, or an entire shelf that's basically a vertical junk drawer full of birthday candles, takeaway menus, dead batteries, and rubber bands. 1 junk drawer is a system. 5 is just surrender. Habit 7. Put the groceries away immediately when your mom came home from the shops. The bags didn't sit on the bench for 2 hours while she sorted through mail and made phone calls. The groceries went straight into the cupboards, fridge, or pantry. Every single item, the bags got folded up and tucked away, and the bench was clear again in 15 minutes. This sounds like a small thing, but it creates a massive ripple effect. Bags sitting on the bench mean no space for other things. So other items end up on the kitchen table. The table fills up, so mail goes on the chair. Within an hour, one set of unpacked bags has created mess in 3 different areas of your home. The 15-minute habit of putting everything away immediately stops the chain before it starts. Bags come in, bags get emptied, everything goes to its home. Bench is clear again. Habit 6. Tools on the wall. Not in drawers. Walk into a farmhouse kitchen from the 1940s and you'd see pegboards behind the stove. Hooks on every cabinet door, magnetic strips holding knives near the cutting board. Sometimes there was a narrow strip of wall between the bench and the upper cupboards, lined with small brass hooks. Each one held a ladle, a slotted spoon, or kitchen shears. Why? Because those kitchens only had 4 or 5 drawers total. You couldn't fit everything in drawers, so the walls did the work instead. The genius of wall-mounted storage is that every tool is visible and instantly accessible. You never dig through a tangled drawer for the potato peeler. Everything's right there at eye level. Modern kitchens abandoned this for clean walls and sleek cabinetry. The look improved. The function got worse. Habit 5. A planned menu for every week. Monday was meatloaf. Tuesday was chook casserole. Wednesday was soup. Thursday was pork chops. Friday was fish. Saturday was leftovers. Sunday was the roast. This sounds boring until you realize how smart it actually was. When you know exactly what you're cooking every day of the week, your shopping list writes itself. Your pantry stays lean because you're only stocking ingredients for 7 specific meals. There's no standing at the fridge at 5:30 p.m. trying to figure out what to make, which is exactly when takeaway menus start looking attractive. A rotating menu also meant your mom wasn't constantly making decisions about food. The mental load dropped. She walked into the kitchen knowing exactly what to do, and the ingredients were already there. Habit 4. Repair. Don't replace when a knife got dull. Your mom sharpened it on a wet stone that lived in a drawer. When the cast iron pan lost its seasoning, she re-seasoned it with lard and a hot oven. When a wooden spoon handle cracked, she sanded it smooth. When an apron frayed, she sewed new ties on. Nothing got thrown away just because it showed where it was expected, where it was respected. A well-used kitchen tool was proof it was good enough to earn its place, not a reason to buy a new one. This habit meant kitchens didn't accumulate clutter. The replacement cycle barely existed. One cast iron pan could serve a family for 60 years. A set of glass canisters lasted a lifetime. Modern kitchens accumulate because we replace instead of maintain. The slightly discolored spatula gets replaced, and the old one stays in the drawer. Both sit there. Nothing leaves, so drawers fill up. Habit 3. Use everything before you buy more vegetable. Scraps from Tuesday's dinner became the stock for Wednesday's soup. Stale bread became breadcrumbs or bread pudding. The last bits of Sunday's roast became Monday's sandwich fillings or were minced into a hash. Nothing was wasted. But beyond being frugal, this habit had a brilliant organizing effect. The fridge never accumulated mystery containers. There were no half-used jars of sauce slowly going bad behind the milk. Everything that went in came back out within a day or two, transformed into something else. A fridge that works this way stays naturally organized. You always know what's in there because you're always using what's in there. Habit 2. The daily 1-minute morning reset. Your mom's day started the same way every single day. The instant she got up, the bed got made, sheets smoothed, pillows straightened. 1 minute, done. That made bed set a standard for the whole room. Clutter was less likely to settle in a room with a made bed. The whole house felt more under control because the bedroom looked controlled. Then, at night, a 5-minute reset. Cushions fluffed, stray items returned to their homes, surfaces wiped. Nothing had a chance to accumulate overnight. These 2 bookends, 1 minute in the morning and 5 at night, meant no desperate weekend cleaning marathons. Habit 1. The seasonal spring cleaning wasn't just a saying, it was a real event. Usually in September, when the weather warmed up and windows could be thrown open, every shelf got emptied, every drawer got pulled out, surfaces got scrubbed until they were bare. Then, one item at a time, things went back. Only things that had earned their place. The chipped mug nobody used went to the donation box. The bent whisk got tossed. Plastic containers with missing lids got sorted, matched, and orphans got thrown away. This twice-yearly reset was the safety net. Even if small bits of clutter had crept in over 6 months, The spring clean caught them. The kitchen came back to baseline, lean and functional.